Everyone, and welcome to HR Tech Chat, where we explore how HR technology helps people leaders drive better business outcomes. I'm Nicole Roberts, Senior Analyst and Advisor with 360 Insights. Today, I'm excited to introduce someone who's joining our analyst team, Robert Mattson. One of the things I enjoy most about hosting these conversations is helping our audience to get to know the people behind the research. We've all read biographies and LinkedIn profiles, but they only tell part of the story. What I really enjoy exploring is how someone's experiences have shaped the way they think and the perspective that they're going to bring to conversations that we'll be having as analysts. Robert, welcome to HR Tech Chat. It's great to have you here. We're certainly excited to officially welcome you to the 360 Insights community. So let's start at the beginning. Your career has spanned HR tech, marketing, storytelling, consulting, and now industry analysis. Certainly a unique combination of experiences, and each one brings a different lens to the way that you evaluate tech in the market. Looking back, what experiences have most shaped the way that you evaluate tech today?
Well, actually, you missed a whole section of it. I have a double E degree. I have an electrical engineering degree from the University of Lowell, now UMass Lowell, where my son goes. And so I began as a software engineer, worked my way through QA tool writer, eventually found my way to product marketing, spent a whole bunch of time in that. And about 8 years ago, I left a job as a VP of marketing. I was running marketing for a small software company and left that, started my own business based all on storytelling. Because my other side of my life, I refer to myself as a long-term dilettante, meaning I'll spend 10 to 15 years doing stuff. So I've been a playwright, a woodworker, building social websites before things like Facebook existed, singer-songwriter, filmmaker, and now I'm writing books. So I've done a bunch of different stuff, but it all revolves around storytelling. How do we communicate? And when it comes to what I do in my primary business, which is called Intrigue Communications and Coaching, it's how do people utilize stories, whether they're telling their own, they're telling their customer stories. They're telling stories that get people inspired. How do you do that in a way that makes communication more effective? And when I work with a lot of companies now, I look at what they do and I say, hey, you're not really telling a story. You're telling me features, facts, and functions about what you do. In fact, I went to an event and I asked a woman, say, hey, what do you do? And it was in the HR tech space. And she told me for about 3 minutes. And at the end, I had no idea what she did. And then I said, how do you change my life? And she told me a client story. And at the end of that, I said, your second answer was to my first question. So I help people figure out what stories are going to work and what's going to get their message across most effectively. And when it comes to looking at what we're doing at 360, it's looking at it from the other side, trying to figure out what messages they're telling and what they really mean.
So, an abundance of free time, it sounds like. So, why is now the right time to explore being an industry analyst?
Well, it's funny. I've actually been contacted by analyst firms in the past and talked about it a lot. And when I worked for a large company, I worked for Ceridian, ADP, a lot of fairly good sized organizations. It just didn't feel quite right to go directly from a vendor to going into the analyst space. Just for me, that was just my own choice. Now, when the opportunity came up and I got introduced to Nick and the rest of the team, I thought, I've been working with so many different companies over the last 8 years. It's time to actually bring a broader viewpoint. And I think it's going to help me be more effective when it comes to having conversations with clients and with vendors and all the different people that make up the community.
Yeah. I mean, you've certainly had kind of a front row seat of watching this industry evolve over, decades, which certainly gives you a perspective that newer professionals just don't have, right? They don't have that experience. So, what changes have had the greatest impact on how orgs are buying and using HR tech from your perspective?
When it comes to buying and selecting, you take a look, and thank you for mentioning how old I am. I appreciate that very much. Well, you take a look at what I've seen, from the advent of GUIs. When I got my first machine I ever worked on out of college was a 1 megabyte Mac Plus. I went through that to the world of where you had to install, data layers to get machines and printers talking, to client server, to the .com boom, to suddenly everything is online. It's been amazing to see it. And now we're in the world of AI. And the thing is that it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. Because it all comes down to one core question. Does the technology improve what we do? And I take a look at it in 5 different areas. Can we do something we couldn't do before? Can we do something better, higher quality? Can we do something faster? Can we do something cheaper? Or does it just make us look cool? And that's not a bad thing, because sometimes, I mean, if you've got one bag versus another, if you're carrying just a generic gym bag versus a designer gym bag, hey, there's value there because that represents who you are. So
Mhm.
those different 5 buckets I love to look at, because when it all comes down to it, if they don't fill up one of those buckets, it really doesn't bring end value. We can be excited about the technology, but how does this help us do things better?
So basically, you're saying that my handbag and shoe addiction is stemmed by the fact that I geek out over the technology. All right, I get that. I get that now.
Absolutely. The
I'm
technology
bought
of
into that.
handbags.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Think that all the tech is cool and I want to learn all about it. And also shoes are my vice. So that works. I like it. So obviously you've brought AI into the chat, right? AI is definitely part of the conversation when we're talking about tech, and it's dominating boardroom discussions, vendor roadmaps. Everybody's talking about how they are respectfully and with love. Nobody is inventing categories, right? Nobody is reinventing, but they've all got certainly a perspective on that. Which discussions do you think that the industry is having that are going well, and where do you think they're missing the mark?
It reminds me when I think about AI, and you and I have probably both been to the HR Tech Show, whether it was in
Yes.
Chicago at Navy Pier or in Vegas, where it's been more lately. And every year there seems to be a theme. So AI is the current theme. I mean, I saw the workflow theme. I saw all these different themes that came through. And when I take a look at it, we're in a repeated process. Technology's come, everyone is trying to get in front of it, everyone's trying to get excited, and people don't know how to get value out of it. They don't know how to manage it. They don't know how it's going to affect things down the road. So right now we are in this massive scramble, and because AI is available to the public, it's not like technology that was just locked behind the walls of the SAPs, the ADPs, the success factors, all these different players in the world. It's out here amongst us, and we're all playing with it, and we're all figuring out how to use it. And things are changing so quickly. So when I take a look at it, I am looking at governance,
Mhm.
activity, the effectiveness of these things. I am trying to figure out, when looking at it, it's like, okay, how do you know it's working? How can you actually plan for a future you don't know it's going to be there when you get there? What's holding you back? And as people, and Nicole, we've chatted before, and you've probably heard me bring this up, I like looking at why things don't work. I was a quality assurance manager. My job was to break things. So as an engineer, I tried to make things work. As a QA manager, I was trying to get things not to work. And that gave me a different viewpoint on things. Why won't things work? We implement a technology in a company, whatever it is. Why don't people use it effectively? Why don't people use it at all?
Mhm.
Why are these shadow processes going on? And I know you're spending a lot of years in HR. It's like, well, we've got this new system. Then why do we have all these spreadsheets running around our HR department that people are doing on their own? So why don't people use it? Why are they being held back?
Mhm.
And how do we get to a point where we can have, and this is a big word, predictability? When can things make sense? And we can look to the future, look to 6, 8 months, 10 months, 12 months in the future and go, I am pretty solid that I understand what's going to happen. We're nowhere near that in this big wave that's hit.
No, not remotely. So thinking about kind of the underlying assumptions with HR and AI, what assumptions about AI do you think deserve to be challenged? Because there's a lot of conversations going on out there, and people definitely have strong opinions in a lot of ways about AI. What do you think needs to be challenged?
It depends on what viewpoint you're coming from. If you're coming from the technologist viewpoint or the CHRO viewpoint or the CEO viewpoint or the CFO viewpoint. And there's a lot of
Mhm.
CFOs that are saying, my goodness, this is going to save me so much money. And I think that one thing that needs to be challenged is that particular aspect of it, that it's going to solve all of these problems and it's going to put all these people out of work. It's already put a bunch of people out of work for no good reason, many times just to save enough money to spend on AI. So it's one of those situations where I've seen a lot of examples of that. But I think it's one of these challenges that people are thinking it's a silver bullet.
So crazy, right? We've been saying for eons that your new shiny piece of HR tech is not a panacea. It is not going to solve all the issues in your organization. Why have we then lulled ourselves into some false sense of security that AI, the latest iteration, of this new shiny HR tech that is going to do it, though. Like, that is just so wild to me. It's like we've been saying for years that your new shiny piece of HR tech is not going to solve every issue in your organization. But then the next wave, right, is coming in there like, but have you tried AI? And it's surprise to none. It is not solving world peace, and it is not the end all be all and the panacea to every organization. I mean, it's wild, right? I mean,
Let's get back to the important topic, and that's shoes. If you've ever gone to the store and found
uh,
a great pair of shoes, and you've tried them on, and you're like, "These look fabulous, they feel fantastic," and you pay the whatever exorbitant sum they're asking for those shoes, and you walk out the door, and then you wear them for a half a day, and you're like, "My feet are killing me."
yes.
We are dealing with that in AI because
Mhm.
it looks so good. We go and we ask for things, and suddenly it's creating an image and a poster and a
Right.
spreadsheet and all these things, and then we're getting to the point of we're trying to use it.
Mhm.
And like I said, I'm writing an urban fantasy novel right now, and I'm on third draft, and I'm asking Gemini to say, "Hey, here's the description of the character. Show me what this character would look like," and trying to get it to do a right thing. So I have some conceptual art to hand off to a human artist to say, "This is kind of the feel." It's a nightmare
Mhm.
because the thing is stupid. They're getting smarter, but the thing is, and I blame it on I blame it on Marvel Comics and the great. I love Marvel movies. I love superhero films, but we all want Jarvis from the Iron Man movies, and we
Mhm.
all get Siri,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and that's it. It's not there yet. It's moving
Yes.
so quickly. I think we want it to work so much.
Mhm.
And we're putting our faith in, and because we get such positive, quick results, we do that, but then we don't know how to integrate it into our workflows and our lives and our businesses, and that's gonna take some time.
And we also have one message in marketing that is to CFOs and CEOs. Do this. I did this and I was super successful and I didn't have to hire people, right? It cost me no money to my business. So we're saying that in one breath about AI and what it's doing. But then we're saying to the people who we're looking to replicate their skills, we're saying, well, but if you, person who's a current individual contributor that is doing this work, if you use it, it's going to make you better, stronger, faster, whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like we're saying two different stories. And so then no surprise that when you try to bring it into the organization, then that people are like, nope, keep it away from me. I don't trust it. I don't want to do it. I saw how the other company laid off all those people because of where they made these implementations and what they were doing with it. And I think it's really funny that they don't think the right hand is talking to the left. Like that, what did you expect? And so I love that just in the couple of meetings that I've been with you, that you are focused so much on storytelling and on helping technology companies to communicate their value or help the organizations to connect with the buyers in meaningful ways. And I know that you do a lot of work, individually with clients when it comes to storytelling. What is a lesson that you've learned about communicating ideas that you think applies just as much to HR leaders as it does to tech companies?
Okay, so let's take an hour and let's talk through that one question. All right. So here's the key element, and I'll give you something to remember it by. So it's a mind switch. We as communicators get really focused on our message. This is what I want to tell, and that's inside out thinking.
Mhm.
The first thing I say, I want you to switch it. Because if you're trying to convince someone of something, you have to figure out one, where are they? What hurdle are you trying to get them over? And then you go back and find out the message that's going to be appropriate, whether it's teaching or persuading or both, that will get them over the hurdle. And when I teach classes, I throw up, and I give the room or virtual room or live room, I said, okay, I'm going to give you 3 words that are the key to being an effective communicator. And I hit a slide and it comes up with selfish, lazy, and smug. And I said, okay, any questions? And after everyone looks at me like, okay, what are you getting at? I said, I'm not trying to tell you have to be selfish, lazy, and smart. Assume your audience is a little bit of each. They are selfish. They're not in the room because they like you. They probably don't even know you. They're in the room to get value. And the quicker you can get to giving them value, not what you want to say, but what value you can give them, you'll meet they're selfish. They're lazy. Not a lot of people want to do a bunch of math. And I know you've seen it. I'm betting you've done it because I know I've done it a gazillion times. You put up a slide and you go, I know the slide's a bit of an eye chart. Then why are you showing it to me? Don't give up the narrative. What you're doing is you're saying, please ignore me and read something and pick what you want to pick. This is spaghetti against a wall. So elevate your message, simplify it, tell them what the important parts of it are, and then smug, especially. And I work with a lot of salespeople and marketing people. And if you're a salesperson walking in, the person you're talking to are looking at you going, yeah, you're a salesperson. I'm a wallet with legs to you. I want my budget. So how are you showing them that you have expertise that can bring them value? I tell people, you're Gandalf, the wizard from the Lord of the Rings.
Yes.
You will lead them on an amazing journey with your secret and hidden knowledge and get them to the point where you've got credibility. So when it comes to that, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're sales, CEO, CFO, CHRO, person on the street, trying to convince your friends where to go to dinner. Those skills will always work.
So that kind of transitions perfectly into helping organizations. Everyday organizations have incredible products, innovative technology, and yet they become the best kept secret, right? Like nobody is aware of what is going on. Nobody's aware of the capability of it. From your perspective, what separates the organizations that simply have a great product or service from those that successfully communicate why it matters?
I told you my last corporate job was a VP of marketing. So there are two levels of it. There is the marketing brand level, and then there is the sales to implementation level. And as an HR person, there's also, and by the way, where I was a VP of HR, a VP of marketing was for a recruitment marketing company. So it's a situation where you've got the employee marketing or employee branding type stuff. So you've got all of these messages going out. One, they have to be consistent. And I tell people, it's like, listen, no one cares about what you can do. They care about why it's important to them. And if you want to find differentiation, don't say, here's my screen, here are my buttons, here's my interface. Start with why you went in a particular direction. Why did you look at a problem and view it differently? Because if you can tell, I hate to get all Simon Sinek on everyone, but
Start with why.
Start with why. Start with the why you think you're different. Because there's so many times I had a situation where I talked to a client and I said, what's your differentiator? And they said, it's our people. And I said, everyone has people. In fact, you've got competitors, right? Do you have any people that work for you that used to work for your competitors or people that, that came from them or will go to them? It's not, everyone has good people. And I'm not saying people are bad. It's how you organize and use them can be a differentiator. So it's one of the situations where think about it in not the detail, but it's almost mission, vision, values, but it's how you implement the mission, vision, values. And that truth has to hold true from your marketing to what your employees say when they're at the bar with their friends. If you can do that, well, I do a lot of corporate communications coaching and leadership communications coaching stuff. And I talked to a lot of companies and a lot of executives. I said, listen, do you have values up on the wall? Yep. Are they values that you walk by or values that you live by? And how do you know? Could anyone at your company tell me when those values are being lived by? What did they see that goes up to integrity? And we all have honesty and integrity and hard work and whatever, all the different things that are up on the wall. How do you know integrity in your business? So when it comes down to it, it's the people that can speak to their big message, their why, how they enable their why, and how that benefits their clients. And not only they say it, but their clients say it too. Sorry, that was a soapbox talk.
This is intended to be full of soapbox talks. How else are people going to get to know you if you don't have your soapbox moments?
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Designed that way, intentionally. So as a member of the 360 team, analysts develop the questions that they are most passionate about exploring. It's my favorite part, honestly, is that I get to decide what I am excited about learning more about. And then Nick's like, oh, great. We know, vendor XYZ who is currently exploring that. And so I love that. As you begin this next chapter with 360, what are the research questions that you're most excited to explore?
It's funny because we talk at 360 and the meetings I've been in, it's like, it's not about features and functions. I'm like,
it's not.
It's not.
Stop it. Stop bringing us demos.
But I'm a tech guy and I don't need to know all your features and functions, but I want to know what your big blocks are.
Yes.
Because if I can't figure out what your big blocks are, I can't figure out where they start and stop and how they work. this is something that's in me. I have to understand how things work. And that could be messaging. How does your messaging work? That could be, how do your products work? Who do you work with? I want to understand that. So I want to know how they work so I can figure out why they won't. Because when you think about the audiences that we would tend to be interested in the stuff that we do. There are vendors who want to understand the market, and because they can't talk to the market like we can. We get to talk to everyone. We get a much broader view. But it's also the people who are looking to buy and implement this stuff. It's like, okay, how do I change my processes? All that type of thing. And you, as a longtime practitioner, because you started when you were 6, and I appreciate that.
Right.
It's one
Absolutely.
it's one of the situations where your viewpoint of that process is fine. I wanna see, okay, so if you're gonna buy this stuff, how do you make sure you get value? How do you make sure you can make the change you wanna change? I wanna understand that. I wanna understand every hurdle, every roadblock, and I wanna understand how to get around it. Because if I can see that from people buying the stuff, I can maybe give them some knowledge. When it comes to the vendors out there in the world, I want to look at how they're positioning themselves because guess what? They could do a lot of good. These companies are hardworking people that are trying to make a change. And a lot of times the people, especially highly technical people with phenomenal ideas, don't know how to talk about it. And so all of their hard work, all of their goodness can't get to the people who would benefit from it because they don't know how to make it clear what they do and why it would be a great fit for company A, but not company B. So to me, it's looking for that disconnect. It's funny, I spent most of my career getting things to work. Now I'm trying to figure out why things don't. And that is a big starting point for me.
So I want to think a little bit looking ahead in the future. And let's say 3 years from now, we have the benefit of hindsight, which I know some people are like, I don't think 30 days from now. What do you mean 3 years from now? But let's just say, looking ahead 3 years, what do you think we're going to look back on and realize was the biggest shift happening today that many people underestimated?
I think, let's see, that they underestimated. You put a twist on it, which is interesting. So I think the biggest shift will be the commonality and the usefulness of things like AI, where it is become a accepted and normal part of our lives, and the hype has been shed. And we look back and we think, oh, it was going to do all this stuff, but it actually stops here.
Yes.
I don't think it's going to stop. It's going to develop and continue to develop till we get to the point of, what we consider now science fiction. But the fear will be gone.
Hmm.
Because right now there's so much concern and fear. And I think just like the assembly line and, the Ford Model T in 1913 came, the interesting thing is that I actually use this example in my class where I'll put up a picture of a black Ford sedan from the early 1900s. And I'll ask people, I'm like, what is this? And people's like, it's a Model T. Like, actually, it's a Model N. And the
Mm-hmm.
Model N came out in 1906, so 7 years before the assembly line. And what people did is they didn't have the assembly line. What they put a chassis on a bunch of wooden skis, and men dragged it. And they were just men at that time. They dragged it from position to position to create this. And then then suddenly, oh my God, now we have the assembly line, and people are coming in from you know, the the agricultural world to start creating things, and everything changed. We're at one of those cusps now. It's the AI revolution versus the industrial revolution. We have the data, the knowledge revolution, and now we're at this. At I think maybe not 3 years from now, but it'll be more norm. Maybe 5 or 10 years from now, where we get to the point where it's just the way we work, and people have found their new slots in life.
It's interesting because it's not new, right? Like, that's what blows my mind about some of the pushback that you'll get, or some of the people that are talking about it like it's so much of an unknown. It's not exactly new. So, why are we so stressed out about it and so distrusting of it? And so I'm really interested to see how, one to your point about governance, right? Like, that is incredibly important. And are people rushing to get to market with their idea because they know that the competition's coming in right on their heels? And so did they connect to, an open AI versus having a closed system? And what are the risks of your data to that? Like, I know companies that are saying we might have been slower to market, but we know that we have integrity in our product. We know that we didn't teach it and train it on, outside data. And that's going to really become a differentiator in the market the more that we see that, because people are asking the questions, right? They're either asking to shut it off completely, or they're asking, what is it? What is it learning from? Where is it? Is it a two-way signal? Like, is it sending our data back out somewhere? And so it's really fascinating to see. So I'm glad that you're exploring that angle as well.
Yeah, I just was working on a documentary this past spring on AI and education,
Mm,
and doing interviews of people that are in administration at universities, people that are parents, all these different aspects of it, and they're not ready.
yeah,
You know, I've got retired teachers saying those vendors have to stop until they know it's safe. I'm like, and
they're not going to.
absolutely not. Of course not. Their
They're not
job is
going to.
to push the envelope.
Right.
And it's like, and so, well, government should do it. Well, that's possible, but they got a lot on their plate right now.
Yeah.
And I say the only thing that will stop is the consumer saying, we do not want this.
Yes.
So we have to educate the people that are looking at it saying, are you ready?
Hmm.
Do you understand the levers, the push, the pull? You're right, the data in and out.
Yes.
Do you understand the risks and the challenges? And the more educated you are, the better decision we'll make, because guess what? There'll be reputable companies, and there'll be companies who are doing the best they can. And there'll be companies that maybe don't have the best at heart, your best interest at heart. You're going to have to figure that out. And the more educated you are, the better off you're going to be at finding that right solution.
So let's get a little personal so we can get to know you a little bit better. What are you reading, listening to, or learning right now?
Right? Well, as I mentioned, I'm writing a book.
You are.
I am writing a book. This will be my second book. I wrote a business book. Actually, I have it here. I have The Salesperson's Guide to Storytelling. So I
Love it.
have that book, but I also have, I can actually, so this is a scene to inspire me from my book that I'm working on right now.
Love that.
And it's an urban fantasy book. So it's 294 pages or so. And I'm about to go out to beta readers on an urban fantasy set in Worcester, Mass. I take
Nice.
the Worcester State. So I've set it at Worcester State because I think the city of Worcester needs a little love.
There you go.
So
I like it.
if anyone out there is watching as a urban fantasy, if you like Kevin Hearn or Jim Butcher, things like that, I'm big fans of theirs as well. So I'm doing a lot of that. When it comes to the things I listen to, obviously a lot of audiobooks, a lot of podcasts. The music I tend to listen to is either Broadway or folk music. And when I say
Nice.
folk, it's singer-songwriter, because I was part of that community. So I ask my smart speaker to, and if you don't want to say the name because that'll screw everything up.
No, because she'll turn mine on and yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
I
Yep.
say, play this artist, and I'll hang out with a friend of mine for an hour, because I'm fortunate enough to know a lot of phenomenal musicians, and I get to hang out with them. So that is, and also, I've been doing theater since I was 15 years old, and I just did a concert version of the musical 1776.
Very cool.
I actually played John Adams in a full version of that. And this one, I was asked to play Robert Livingston, much smaller part. I was much happier. I get a couple fun songs and a few good lines, and I get to relax most of the night and enjoy my friends performing. So yeah, I got a busy life.
That I, believe it or not, have a background in musical theater, but not since high school. Like I have still stayed in, choirs and music groups and things like that afterwards, but I haven't done any acting since then. But, probably part of what drives us both in the way that we approach our work is probably a little bit of that musical theater background. So, what is one question that you wish people asked you more often?
Question that they would ask me more often. It depends on who they are
Mhm.
and what they're trying to get to. To be honest, it would probably be, can I get some help?
Mm,
Because I think that people do not ask for enough help. And it's funny when I teach classes, and I tell people, I say, listen, everything that we talked about in this hour, 2 hour, 2 day, whatever it may be, you've got a lifetime warranty. If you have a question about it, call me. You got my email. I'll give you my phone number. If I would rather they call me at one, by the way, I live in a household where we've got, my fiance has horrible insomnia, and I wake up all the time. So we're probably up, most of the day anyway. I said, I would rather you call me for 15 minutes at 2 a.m. than struggle for an hour and a half on your own. I think if people realize two things: one, there's nothing wrong with asking for help.
right.
Two, people want to give help. I think in general, people would like to help others.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting. I mean, people always say, right, like, oh, I know that you're so busy. Like, I hate to bother you. It's like, We're all busy, but none of us are too busy, right? I think intrinsically in our DNA, unless you're some horrible person, we want to help others. We want to take what we've learned and pay it forward and help somebody else. And none of us got to where we are in our careers, in our lives without the help from somebody. And so it just makes you feel good to be able to help somebody else and, pay it forward.
I was working with a company, and they're in the landscaping field, and I was teaching emotional intelligence to or facilitating, I shouldn't say teaching, but facilitating the topic of emotional intelligence to landscape foremen.
Mm.
And in fact, when I did a virtual class, one gentleman was actually in a tractor as he was trying to listen. And I tell them, and they have challenges. They've got a lot of young people fresh out of high school that they're working with, and they have the complaints that I hear a lot. It's like, oh, they don't have a work ethic, they don't have this. I said, how many people have invested in them?
Mhm.
And I shared a bunch of stories, snippets of quotes from managers and people that I've worked for, that I've been fortunate enough to work for in the past. And I say, this was a 2-minute moment in 1988 that I can recall to you and quote what my first boss ever said to me. I can tell you what happened. I can almost imagine, I can almost remember what I was wearing.
Mhm.
It was a much smaller shirt. I was much thinner.
It's like in 1988, yeah.
Yeah. But it's one of the situations where you don't realize how much you can affect someone's life in a few minutes. So just find those opportunities.
Yeah. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today. I know that we could have talked much longer, but we really do try to limit these conversations to not go on forever and ever. I know that it's been a pleasure getting to know you and learn about your journey in our off-camera conversations when we're, meeting with our clients and all of that. And so I was so excited to get the opportunity to, I think Nick had a great idea when he said, let's introduce you in a podcast. And so I know that our audience is going to be hearing much more from you in the months and years ahead. And so we're just excited to have you as part of the team.
As am I to be part of it.
Thank you to our listeners for joining us on HR Tech Chat. If you enjoyed today's conversation, please be sure to subscribe so that you never miss an episode of HR Tech Chat. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks so much.